Good day, students. In this final video, I'm going to cover how we're going to take all this information that we've produced in Blender and now put it on our sheet. Now, this is up to you. I've given you some examples to follow, but I've just put this together to highlight the difference between different styles that you could use. So, for example, I've done a plan and a section so that I could use this information to produce my model in Blender, but you can see in Rayon, I can actually get quite a good result of what I'm trying to achieve using Rayon. So on the left hand side, these are the Rayon exports, but on the right hand side, I've created these renders from Blender, and I've done a bit of post-production in GIMP, and then I've now added them to the sheet. Okay, so at the top, I've also given you two different types of renders. So this was done with Eevee, so you can see the differences. So if you see the differences between the two renders, cycles, you do get a much better result. But it'll take a lot longer. Okay, so you need to decide what workflow will best suit your needs. Okay, so in essence, all you need to do for this assignment is to sheet up all of your renders and plans and sections. You can have a mix of drawings, totally up to you, but just make sure that this communicates well. And you can see I've put this on a sheet and I've used my monogram. Okay, so we're starting to put together all the skills that we've been learning this whole year. So basically, in a nutshell, I'm going to show you very quickly how I went about setting this up. The first thing I did, so I have Rayon open, but the first thing I did, I actually put all my renders in a location, and I need to spend a bit of time fixing my renders. So in my renders, if we just look at your renders, I'm just going to cycle through this just to give you an idea of what they look like. So some renders will come out pretty well, but if you've used the camera method, if we've used the camera to cut the sectional plan, you'll notice that there is a little bit of extra work that we've got to do. Okay, but this is just a quick workflow, but you can spend a lot more time in Inkscape and GIMP to make these look a lot better. Okay, so basically, I'm going to quickly fix these two sections. I'm going to leave the renders as they are. I'm going to work on the plan. I'm going to work on the section. So basically, let's open up GIMP quickly. Okay, we're going to open these images. So we're going to go and open. Now, if we want to print these we'll need to change the DPI. But for now, you can just literally open the images. So I would go and open both of these images very quickly, because what you're going to do in the one, you're going to do in the other. So I'm going to open up both of these. Now just remember that sometimes these will look a bit washed out. We might have to do some color correction afterwards, but I think for now I'm going to be marking this on the screen. So just understand there is going to be a difference between what you're seeing on plan and when you print it out, if you're using plotters and printers, and what you're going to see on the screen. But as you can go back to my example, the renders have come out quite well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start in my plan view. So I need to fix like where the walls go. I need to do a bit of work on these drawings, and I'm not going to take too long to do this. I'm just going to show you a quick workflow, but you can go and add a whole lot more content, and I'll show you in Teams where you can get a lot more information to add to these as well. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is I'll probably crop away the redundant pixels. So I'm going to use a crop tool, make sure that the current layer is unselected. I'm going to delete. So I just want to get a good area around, so I'm not exporting images that are too large. So we've got a lot of wasted pixels around these. So I'm just going to get rid of the redundant pixels very, very quickly. The images don't have to be exactly the same size, because I'm going to do a lot of the work in Rayon in any case. I'm just creating a buffer around, so it allows me to work around this. So the first thing I'm going to do very quickly is add a layer, and I'll call this walls. Make sure it's transparent. I'm going to do the same in the other one. Walls. Okay. The next step is just to go and select all the areas that are cut and will represent as a wall. So you can use different colors for this, totally up to you. I'm going to use the quick select tool or fuzzy select tool. Make sure that the threshold's around 10, and I'm just going to quickly select and hold Control or Shift down. So remember, we get different modes. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to keep adding to the selection. So I'm just going to quickly go and see how much of this information I can select quickly. Remember, you can hold down. If you need to select more, again, you can hold down. Sometimes I have noticed that these renders do Oh, see, we're going too far, but that might work for me. So let's just go in here a bit. That might work. Okay, so remember, you're holding down the left key, but I'll explain a bit later on how we can go and fix this a bit more. So maybe that's okay for now. And here a bit. I'm not too worried about those other areas because we can fix that. So let's try that. Oh, that worked quite well. So let's just get in here and see. Okay, yeah, that worked okay. All right, so I think that will work for now. Right click and we go and select and remove holes. Okay, so while we're busy working this off, if there are areas that are a bit fuzzy, we can use the rectangle tool again, and then we can keep adding to the selection just to fix up these areas. I'll explain when you've got some areas where you've got between doors. So I'm just adding to the selection. That's good. Enter. See, I fixed that area quite quickly. So especially here where I've got this arrangement, so I can just go enter. Just remember to press enter when you're done with the command. So here's a bit of an area that hasn't worked out as well, but you can quickly select the whole area, zoom in. So I can zoom in there maybe, that will work for me. Go past that line. Okay, you can see with the rectangle tool, you can actually fix these selection areas very, very quickly. Okay, and because the plan's square, it makes your life a lot easier as well. Okay, here again, there's some slight issues. So here I can quickly fix that by doing that, and then dragging this right to the end. Enter. If there's still some issues on this side, again, we can just do the same. Okay, so spend a bit of time, get these looking good. Okay, it does help to spend a bit of time on these. That'll be okay. Maybe I need to select a bit more there. Okay, and let's drag this to the end. So you can see I can do this very quickly. On my section, I noticed it was a bit easier to clean out a lot of this information. Okay, so again, I can just quickly do, that's good for now. Look, because once this is on a plan, you'll see it'll read. It reads pretty well, so enter. Good. All right, so I don't think I've got to spend a little more time here. Let me just see that one. Okay, pull this down, enter, and then one last little selection over here. What I do like about this tool, you can keep extending it. So if you need to extend this into this wall, you can keep going. Okay, so this is, I do like some of the tools. Okay, so now make sure that your walls are selected. Pick a color that you think will work for you. You can either try and emulate like a brick or red. Just make sure that it's a layer or a color that contrasts, and I can use a bucket tool. So now you can see very quickly, I can quickly fill in my sections. I'm going to do exactly the same on this view while I've got the color selected. I like the fact that you can transfer these settings. Quick select tool again. This might be a lot easier to do. Yes, it is. So hold and click down. Just make sure you don't go in the window. So by clicking and holding, you can control what you're selecting. I do enjoy that feature. Okay, there we have a couple issues. There. Okay, so very quickly, rectangle. Let's fix those very quickly. But it's very quick. The fact that we do have square, it's exported it. That wall's in the distance, so we don't need to do that. So here again, I can just very quickly select that. Don't worry if you've made a mistake, it does give you an opportunity to fix it. So I'm just going to drag this into that line there, maybe one up, 1 pixel down, that's good. Drag this in this direction. Oh dear, don't do that. Oops, I made a mistake there. I dragged the whole thing instead of just dragging the corners. Just be careful. Yeah, you want to do that instead. Okay, so zoom in, zoom out. Spacebar, while you can use the spacebar tool while you panning around. So if you're in a command, the spacebar will help you pan around the scene while you've got a command active. That's also quite handy. Again, enter. So very, very quick. This is very easy to quickly go and sort out. There's some issues with the floor there, but I mean, it's not a train smash. Ultimately, we're just trying to make these images read. Okay, so it's just, but then again, you could have just used the rectangle tool right from the get-go. Okay, so you can, I'm happy with this result, so I can pull this back. Let's pull this up one more, enter. Okay, so I've got the walls again, bucket tool, I'm going to use the same color. Okay, I just want the things to read the same. For now, select none. Okay, so here you can see the outline of our walls, what we're cutting. So pick a color that works for you. What is nice, if you select the walls, you can use the colorize function again, but to match the colors might get a bit tricky. So just remember, at any point, you can use the colorize function. Another little trick I'm going to show you is I want to accessorize this render a bit more. I've got a PNG of myself that I would like to use and insert. So if you go back to your folders where you've got that picture of yourself, so I'm just going to show you the picture. So I showed you how to remove the background. That's not me, sorry. Ooh, I think I put it in links. Sorry, I'm looking in the wrong location. Please go and use your, when you moved around, you moved the background. So if you've moved the background of yourself, I'm going to use my accessorized image because I think this will work better. So I'm going to drag and drop my accessorized image. It will come in quite large, so you'll need to scale it down. Okay, so try and scale it. You want to add a bit of context so that it is believable. Okay, so I'm going to move this down. I'll put it over here. Perfect. Scale. So I've put myself in. That's great. I can also, if there's redundant pixels and you've got a background that's got a PNG, you can remove. So you can actually delete. So you're going to say layer to image size. It'll reduce the image. Undo. My apologies. Right click on the layer again. There is a function that will remove the redundant pixels of the image. Okay, no, I can't see it here. Delete layer. I just want to make sure. Okay, there is a tool to do this, but for now, don't worry. I'm going to add one more. I'm going to use render that I got in from one of the renders I made. I'm going to put that on the TV screen. So it looks like I've accessorized the TV. So that's another little technique you can use. I'm going to go back to my folder quickly. Maximize this. Going to go back to desktop, workshop. So again, I'm just going to use one of my renders I've done. So I'm going to use the cycles render for this. So I'm going to drag and drop that in. So go to cycles, I'm going to drag and drop this in. You see that it really gives the layers names, which is quite handy. Now this is quite interesting. I can get rid of the redundant pixels now. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to say scale for now. I'm going to use the crop tool. So I'm going to use the crop tool, but this time I'm only going to crop the layer that I'm working on. So I just want to get rid of the redundant pixels for now. It just helps you reduce the size of the image. Okay, that's fine. So then I can scale this image again. Right, scale image. And I'm going to move and put this on my TV screen. So I'm going to make this look like there's an image on the TV of my render. Okay, so that's quite cool. So you've got all these little tricks and tips you can do. So you don't have to do everything in. I'm going to make this look a bit translucent. Okay, so once you're happy with your final results, once you're happy with your results, you're simply going to go and export these as PNGs again. So you're going to go and export as. I'm going to put these on my desktop because I'm going to drag and drop them into Rayon. So I'm just going to say section PNG. I'm going to export that. I'm going to save this. So export. And then I'm going to go back to this plan. You can also spend some time accessorizing this as well. Totally up to you. File, export as. I'm going to go to desktop. I'm going to call this plan. So there's my section. So you can see they're about 1 meg each. Export. Export. Great. Okay, so I've got an accessorized image. I've spent a bit of time in GIMP adding some more detail. So this is totally up to you. You can go crazy. You can make these look abstract. So you can use a lot of tools in GIMP to add a lot more character to these renders. Okay. But you can do a lot in Blender as well. Okay, so I have a very basic set of drawings put together. So I've got my, just note that I've used an outline to give me an idea of how big this will be on my sheet, because this is an A1 sheet. So you literally put in a sheet and you can times this by a certain value. Okay, so I've just made sure that this outline is an A1 sheet, so it gives me a bit of a guide that I can work with. Okay, and I've made this a group as well. Okay, so that's just something to understand. So on your apartments, remember we made an export model layer. If you don't need it anymore, you can delete that. So we don't need that anymore, delete. So in our apartment sheet, we've done a bunch of drawings. So I'm going to start adding these images to this. Okay, so I'm going to open up my browser. I'm going to go to desktop. So on desktop, now I can start dropping these images in. Okay, desktop. So I'm going to grab my plan view and I'll scale it in a second. Sorry, that should not have, I should have just drag and drop. So plan view. Okay, very interesting. It doesn't want to do it while I'm recording, obviously. So what we can do is we can go and import information. Okay, it should just drag and drop. That's interesting. View mode. You are in view mode. Okay, wait a minute. So I'm just going to duplicate this. Sorry, I've made a mistake with this sheet. So I'm just duplicating this because I went back a version. So let me just go back to, okay, now see it's made a duplicate. All right, so that's great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop my images into my view. I'm just going to drag and drop them in for now, and you can see they're coming quite nicely. And section AA. Okay, so very quick. I'm going to use some guidelines. So G for guidelines, or remember, you're going to go use these commands here. So just pick, I know the shortcuts, so I'm going to use the shortcuts quite a bit. I'm going to use the shortcuts over here. So I'm just going to put some guidelines here. Spacebar. Make sure it came from the right place. I'm going to grab these. I'm going to go CC for copy. I'm going to leave those in that location. I'm going to put these right over here. And I'm going to use the guideline again, guideline. And I'm going to use the horizontal. You don't have to now because technically, so I'm just going to use guidelines again. G, O, quickly on your keyboard. O, O, O. And I'm going to select this point over here. I'm just quickly making sure that I organize my sheet quickly. So I see that one should have moved a bit, but anyway, we'll leave it where it is for now. So I see this information has moved a bit, so we can move all of that. So let's just move that, MM. So this is why we use guidelines. There we go, nice and, okay. So we're gonna grab the floor plan. So while you've got it in nudge mode, you can use try and move it into the right location. With the plan selected, we can use the scale tool. I do like the way this works. So scale allows me to scale from, so I want to scale from that point. I'm going to scale that to there. So you'll see that this will scale this to the correct scale. So if this was 1 to 20, this is a very quick way to set up your sheet and kind of get everything looking correct on your sheet. Okay, and you'll know that these images are scaled correctly as well. So again, scale, use the scale tool. Actually, you want to scale along that. It's easier to scale along that construction line because it just means you're going to work more accurately. So scale, and scale from there. So at that point, we're going to scale to there. Oops. So SC, scale, I made a slight mistake there. Okay, so we want to scale this from there to there. Okay, great. So you can see very easily, I can put these sheets together. I'm going to copy this information from here. So I'm just showing you how you can use this information. The only little trick is that you must just remember to, your images will sit above. So in Rayon, just make sure that you set your images layer. So if you go to layers, it will put all of your images in a layer. Make sure they're below the other layers. In addition, I'll probably make another layer and I'll call this annotation and no. Okay, so annotations. I think it's better to move all your annotation objects to that layer. It'll just make your life a lot easier. in properties, you can just simply change it here to annotations, okay? Just so that you know that this information is sitting above. I'm going to copy these. Okay, so you can see to annotate these things, these plans, very, very quick. Okay, very, very quick. I'm going to move all of this information. I'm going to move all of this down a fraction so it gets a bit tighter on the sheet. So we've got some more space to put in our renders. Okay, so I don't need this anymore because I kind of know how big my sheet is. Get rid of that. So I've put in some annotation. The plan's starting to come together. All I need to do now is add some renders. So let's just grab your renders quickly. So in Workshop, I've got some renders, and let's pull this information in. So I'm going to use my cycles and EV, pull those in. Now when you pull in images, and you'll notice they've got quite a large boundary, what you can do is that you can lock the proportions. So lock the proportions. So I've locked the proportions for both of these, but when you select this image and you use Control, it will allow you to crop this image. It will allow you to crop, sorry, you have to unlock this first, my apologies. It will allow you to crop this image quite tight to this, what you're seeing of the image. So this is quite handy to understand because sometimes these images are quite large, so you need to fix them. Then you can lock this again, and I'll explain why we're locking the proportions now. Unlock that quickly. So I'm going to quickly so think of this as a viewport. So we're just removing the redundant information, and it's going to make it easier for us to illustrate this on our sheet as well. Okay, so now that I've got these to the kind of the right size that I want to use, I'm simply going to move this information to the right side. So these are all my EV renders, and I'm going to scale this so that it fits within this bound. Okay, so just so that everything kind of reads well. Remember, these will not have a scale because technically they render, so they're not going to have a scale. And you can see it will try and get the sheet to the right size. I do like how intuitive Rayon is when it comes to scaling objects, moving objects, and you see us trying to create a relationship with other objects the whole time. So I'm actually quite impressed with how this does work. Now I'm going to grab this text quickly, copy that up, and then you can simply go and edit this. So basically all that I did is I made this a group, so I'm going to ungroup this information. I'm going to get rid of this text, and I'm just going to call this render undo. So render cycles. I can copy some of the text. Finished. I'm going to call this. So again, I can ungroup this, ungroup, get rid of that. Sorry, I've got to select out of the group because it's no longer a group. Edit the text, Control V, and I'm going to call this render. Okay. Alright, so you can add a bit more information. You can add more information over these images. You can also draw over them if you wanted to hide stuff below. Totally up to you. So you could actually do a lot of the extra work in this view. So you could actually go and add, you could actually put the wall information over this if you really wanted to. Okay, so you can go and work over these images if you wanted to. So by all means, you can pick a style. Okay, so totally up to you. Okay. But I'm quite happy with the result. I'm going to get rid of the grid lines because I don't want to print those, and then I'm going to go to my paper canvas. Now in your paper canvas, so you can see that again, if you use Control, you can determine what you see on your viewport. Okay, so I'm going to drag this up, get it quite tight. So I do like this, and then you can put this on your sheet. What's nice in Paper Space, you can use your nudge keys, you can use arrow keys to nudge things around. But what I have noticed, it'll try and put the information in your center on your sheet. All I did was, once I set up my page size, so when you set up a page, let me just add a new page quickly and I'll explain this. A page. So when you're setting up a page, Just remember to set up the page to the correct size, so A1. I did cover this in a separate video, but just remember to set up your page to the correct size. Okay, so that's what I did here to set up this page. You can give your page a name, by the way. You can call this print, totally up to you. So this is my page. Then all I went and did is I got a block and I got a title block. So with the filters, what I do like the filters, you can filter this information. So if you go to libraries, for example, and you go to, you can get title blocks and annotation. All that I did is I picked a title block that worked for me and I dumped it in. Once you've got your title block in place, you can go and edit and override it. So I'm going to edit it. So I don't want to see the Rayon information. So I can go and get rid of, just be careful what you select. I have noticed that this is a bit funny in that respect. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to delete all this information, get rid of that line. So now I can go and add some information to this to make it mine. So I'm going to go to my desktop very quickly, workshop. I made a little monogram, so I'm going to bring that in. So I'm going to move my little monogram, put this in location. Again, you can use this to size things. If I made this 100, for example, make sure that you lock the proportions, I've noticed. So I can put my monogram in this location. Okay, so maybe just make this 80. So I can log that to the side there. So I've got my monogram in place. I can go and change all of this information and make it mine. So okay, so my market apartment. Good. Scale. I can edit this as well. Let's select that again. Oh, it's saying something here. Why is it doing that? Delete that. Interesting. Okay, I've got something else selected by the looks of it. Oh, I did make a plan. What is that about? Oh, why is that text there? Anyway. Finished. So just be careful what text you got selected. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm just going to say scale 1 to 20. That should fix that up. I don't know why that's there. Okay. Okay, I'll delete that. So that was a mistake. That was off the sheet. But what's nice is you can keep editing the sheet, keep this 01, my micro apartment. You can select you can rotate this, for example. If you don't know where true north is, you can maybe remove it, but I'll leave it on for now because it's quite nice to have this information on your drawing. I just want to leave that as because I don't know where true north is. Okay, so I've got my sheet. The last thing you need to do now is just simply export this, so menu, export PDF, and you're just going to say, I want to print this canvas. Make sure that you set this to 300 dpi. This is great for what we want to do, and I'm going to export this, give it a name. I'm just going to say my plot, and I'm going to export this to my desktop. So you give it a couple seconds and then you'll save it onto your desktop. Save. So I'm going to close this for now, and then if I go and open up my plot, you'll see that it's done a really good job of printing this on the right sheet. Okay, all the best of luck.